by 2030, women's share of total financial assets is expected to rise roughly 40 to 45%, which is why investing in women-led businesses, to me, is increasingly viewed as a mainstream growth thesis and not just a niche category. So with that, Pierre, one can say that you saw this movement very early on by founding Ankh Impact Ventures. What led you to want to start this investment company that primarily focuses on women-led businesses, and how many of those of the female-run businesses have succeeded so far?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for having me. I very much appreciate being here, and also having the opportunity to bring Anya, one of our star trailblazing founders, to this event. So my late mother was a huge inspiration. I think that was the first and most important. She was a business executive in the 60s and 70s and early 80s, way before a lot of women on the street I grew up in had the opportunity to have those kinds of positions. So that set the stage and the mindset of a young child to see his mother going at 7:30 in the morning to the office in the 1960s in a suit with a briefcase and coming back at 7:30 with the groceries. And I thought every child on my street had a mother that did that, and it was a minority, not a majority. So I think that was the greatest inspiration, my mother. In the 2000s, I started a foundation focused on gifted, underprivileged kids, art and education, and I had the opportunity to meet incredible women in the impact, mission, philanthropic side. And these women were transformational and incredibly dynamic in the programs that they led in a philanthropic silo. But I felt that some of those projects and programs could move from a not-for-profit to a for-profit. And they were somehow at that stage in 20, 25 years ago, not comfortable with setting up their own businesses, doing those mission impact things in a for-profit business model. But then, around 2010 to 2015, my life circumstances changed, and I started consulting women founders of businesses as a retained, advisor of small businesses. And in that phase of my life, I started identifying what I would call women agents of change. By the way, as I mentored and consulted many of these women, I saw rapid growth in their business, not just, of course, having mission and impact. I saw rapid growth in their businesses. I saw, and this is backed up by data by Boston Consulting Group, I'm sure you know, and McKinsey, accelerating businesses at up to 2.5 times faster than the men-only startups that I consulted, hiring a much more diverse employee group, and most importantly, being much more conservative in their burn rates and managing money that's in the bank. So when you added all that together, and I did more and more research, I also found the most shocking statistic that, for example, and this is coming right to 2025, of the $35 billion that was invested last year in America in venture capital, 1% went to women-only, sole-founded businesses.
Wow.
Yet their businesses grow twice as fast, their mission and impact, they have a more diverse employee hiring practice, and they are mission and impact oriented. So there's an arbitrage to back women. It's a unique business opportunity. It's not a philanthropic cause.
Yeah, great. And I think that really ties closely with Anya and kind of the thesis that you had for your business. So I think it'd be great maybe to spend a little bit of time in terms of what kind design is. I think for all of us here that are from South Florida, I think will kind of hit close to home in terms of the concept and the idea behind it. But if you can kind of quickly discuss kind designs from your perspective, from your mindset, and then also as a founder, what do you think has changed over the course of 3 to 5 years that's really, Pierre kind of said it, there is a true growth. So kind of what, from a founder's perspective, how do you view that, and what change have you seen?
Sure. So I am founder, CEO of Kind Designs. I'm originally from Ukraine. I grew up in Israel, and when I was in high school, I got the opportunity to come to your amazing country because my dad got a job with the space program. So we all moved here, not speaking any English, knowing nothing about the American culture, but feeling extremely excited to become U.S. citizens, really wanting to make the most of that opportunity. And so my first stop was to go to law school. That was like my parents' American dream. I had to go to law school or medical school, or I could marry a doctor or a lawyer. Yeah. I just married a lawyer 6 months ago, so I did it. Woo! I'm winning. But my brother, he had to be one of the two. He couldn't marry into it. So anyways, that's why I came to Miami, because I got a scholarship to study law at UM. I graduated, I started working as a lawyer right down the street at Coffee Burlington, and then I was a prosecutor, had an amazing career. I loved my life, obviously, we all do in our 20s, especially Miami, but then started to notice that my community had a big problem with flooding. And year over year, the flooding was more intense, more storm surges were more frequent, and there were endless conferences to talk about the problem, but nobody was doing anything practical about it. And so 3 years ago, to my parents' disappointment at the time, I left behind my legal career and I started Kind Designs with the idea of, number one, finding that solution for my community. Number two, making it extremely affordable, so it was scalable, duplicatable. We bring it to every coastal city at risk. Globally, there's 507 cities at risk from rising sea levels and flooding. And number three, we wanted to build something that was amazing for the ocean. So put together a team, right away zeroed in on seawalls. So seawalls have always been the first line of defense to flooding. You can see them right outside this window. And they have literally never, ever been innovated. The first seawall that went in the water in the US was in Galveston in 1904. It's exactly the same seawall you see here today. And the problem is that seawalls are extremely expensive. They're cost prohibitive for a lot of people. And number two, they're destroying marine habitats because they're leaching chemicals, and because they're flat, nothing can attach, so all the organisms migrate and no one is left to eat toxins in the water. And so we thought, how do we come up with a seawall that's more affordable? And what if, instead of destroying marine habitats, the seawall was a marine habitat? How do we converge infrastructure and artificial reef science? And that's how we came up with this idea, and what we're doing at scale today in our Miami factory of 3D printing living seawalls. So structurally, they're identical to concrete seawalls you see everywhere, but they also function like reefs, dissipate waves, improve the quality of water, and there's no green premium. The living seawalls are actually cheaper than conventional toxic concrete slabs. And so because of that, we were capitalist first, I would say, environmentalist second. We had this great business case. We were able to get in the water within our first year of existence. And now, almost 3 years later, we have tons of residential projects, commercial projects, government projects. We just crossed $10 million in revenue already for this year.
You're also doing the Mandarin Oriental, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, we are doing that seawall of Mandarin Oriental, yes.
I live there, so I know.
And I would say what changed, to answer your second question, in the last 3 to 5 years when it comes to female founders, is that the best, brightest female founders stopped thinking of themselves as female founders and just started being the best founders, period. Because we're not a charity case. People invest in us because we have the best idea, and we're just crazy enough to pull it off. And that's why you're seeing a lot of these. We're seeing like Canva, OpenAI co-founder, she's a woman. They never bought into this idea that, the world was against us and it was so much harder for women. That message is actually not helpful, because I think as women, we are already risk averse. So when someone's telling you only 1% of the money's going, you have 1% chance of getting invested in, then you're so much less likely to even try. So I kind of close my ears when I hear those stats. Like I didn't get the memo, and I never want to get it.
No, I think that's great, because I see Kind Designs and kind of the good that it wants to do for the community, also profitable as well. And I think, Pierre, you have heard, I'm sure, hundreds of pitches, right? Thousands. And, what's one green flag, so to speak, that you see in the strongest women-led companies that you think predicts durable growth? Because you kind of said it, that it's, the profit, non-for-profit, for-profit. And what was it about Anya and Kind Designs that to you were just like you wanted really to lean in on that? And by the way, let's make this conversational. Any questions that you all have in the meantime, by all means, please feel free to ask.
So when I set up the investment thesis of Ankh Impact Ventures 6-7 years ago, I didn't follow the venture capital Northern California model, of which 55% of the world's capital comes out of, by the way. Not American capital, global venture capital. But they're a profit-only thesis. I wanted to come up with something that was better. So I set out 3 flags. The first is, and the most important is, identifying women agents of change, game changers, rising stars. So, and Anya will tell you when we first met 3 years ago. It's a funny story, I'm sure, at least one. So Anya, definitely when I met her in January 23 or December 22, I saw from the second I met her, within 5 minutes of her passion, she's an agent of change. So Anya is an agent of change. The second red flag green flag I found.
No red flags here, please. No red flags.
I didn't find any red flags. There was no red. So the second one was she identified a very important societal issue which she believes she can find a solution for in a profitable way. Mm-hmm. And then the third one was she believed she can aggregate the technology and science to scale it. So when you mix that green cocktail together, excuse the pun, because the last conversation I listened to was about health and anti-aging, you create an incredible mixture of success. And I remember meeting Anya in December or January, December 22, January 23. I don't know if there was a company. I never received a pitch deck. I was meeting someone in Abu Dhabi a week before who said there's a woman in America who's planning on building new seawalls. You have to go to Miami and meet her. And I got on a plane and I came to Miami and I met her. And Anya can tell you the rest.
No, great. Anya, I'm curious how that really matched your experience, right? I think, because founders, I think, and you tell me, often feel that sometimes investors just don't get it, right? That or they may not get it really until it's too late or the missed opportunity. So what made Pierre the right partner kind of just beyond that first check? And what do you think he understood quickly that a lot of other investors don't really get?
The best investors, like Pierre, from the first conversation are looking for a reason to say yes. They're not looking for a reason to say no. They're thinking not what can go wrong, but what happens if everything goes right. And they just go all in for you. And we're so lucky to have investors like that. And the first of which was Pierre. I really don't think I had a deck when I met you. Just an idea in my head. And Pierre just loved it. And our second meeting, we met in his restaurant in his at his building.
My sisters.
Oh, sorry, your sisters. And he literally came down with 2 suitcases full of business cards. He's like this whole system of keeping
a proper roll of decks.
Yes, literally.
I'm not next gen. I'm X gen. I'm not next gen. I'm X gen.
And we just sat there for 2 days and we emailed everybody, and I raised like $6.5 million from a lot of them from your friends, and they actually asked us to leave in the restaurant. Remember?
And the wind was blowing and the cards were going.
Yeah, it was a little too much for the restaurant, but we got $6.5 million. So
yeah, $6.5 million.
But Pierre never had doubts in me, because when you get the wrong investors on your cap table, or even worse, on your board, they're always putting fear in you, and they're making you think smaller, and you have to guard yourself, you have to guard your team from that, and that really starts with the investors that you have around yourself. So Pierre not only brings that confidence, but also a lot of joy to the journey.
And food.
The best food, yes. So we just have so much fun, and I think when you're creating from a beautiful state, and when I'm with you, I really am always in a beautiful state.
Thank you.
What you create is so much bigger, more sustainable. So I'm very grateful to be building this with you, Pierre.
Thank you.
I think for me, I think it's really the concept of kind of the idea of being understood, right? Being understood, I think, is very powerful because I think sometimes the best advice usually comes from someone who sees a business clearly and pushes you kind of in that right direction. And for Anya, what's one piece of advice that you think that stayed with you, whether if it's Pierre, other investors? 'Cause I think that it would be great to kind of hear the trajectory from when you started with Pierre to kind of where things are now, the growth that you've seen, and how do you think that's changed, or how do you think that you use that to continue to build Kind Designs to what it is right now?
The best advice I got is actually a quote. It is the bigger the dream, the more important the team. Everything comes down to the culture that you're building with your team. And you have to set the standard so high and never, ever, ever lower it. And as female founders, we have the gift of intuition. So when you're building the team, you really have to stand by that. Even when you're getting pushback that you're making the wrong decision on paper, in your heart as a woman, you know who is the right person to join you. And at Kind Designs, our culture, it's American exceptionalism, period. You have to be exceptional in the way you think, in your experience, and your character. And that's a very high bar, but that's how you build a world-class team and a world-class company. And the way to get there is through intuition. And that's, you asked how things have changed since I met Pierre. They've changed a lot. So we've raised, we're closing.
Today you're closing $10 million.
Yeah, we're closing $10 million today. Yeah. So thank you.
$70 million post money.
Yes. So in total, we've raised $22 million. Most recent valuation is $70 million. I'm already thinking about the seed in Q1. I want $150 million valuation. So, but what we should pause and celebrate because it is super exciting, and all the investors are amazing, super strategic. They're government people, they're construction people. They're like Mark Cuban just put in $2 million a couple days ago. So amazing team, and I know that this is all happening because of the culture that we build within ourselves, and then attracting the people who really fit in with that as well.
I would like to just add something which validates this. Anya self-handedly with her team went to Washington, went to the council here in Miami, and did many things, but effectively, instrumentally caused the policies and the rules to change, and that is call of action. And I think when governments, federal and state and local, change laws based on the product that you're building, that shows that you're doing something transformational. Maybe you just want to mention what you were able to change.
Yeah, we're building a legislative monopoly. I think that's why we got the round together, and literally a few days, because all of these policies started hitting. It started at the local level. The county passed a rule that if you put in a living seawall, because it's improving the quality of water for the whole community, then you are exempt from having to do environmental mitigation. And the amount of money you're saving on not having to do that is actually more than you're paying for our seawalls. They're free. And then the city started passing rules. Like City of Miami, you get half off your building permit if you show a living seawall in your plans. So we succeeded doing this locally, and now we're replicating this at the state level. By July 1st, Governor DeSantis is mandating that the state pass rules incentivizing living seawalls in the next 4 months, and at the federal level. We were just with Governor Rick Scott, now Senator Rick Scott, who is putting us into the policy bill for Department of Defense for all of their coastal bases, as well as an appropriations request, and we just won a $3 million contract with the Navy. But the policy play is very, very exciting, yes. And we hope to pave the way for much more innovation in our space. I think the number one reason investors passed on me in the first round is they said, you'll never get this permitted. Mm-hmm. They were like, they had PTSD from their own experiences, you know? Like, you can't get a regular seawall permit, like a 3D printed biomimicry one. But we actually took that, which was the biggest challenge, and we made that into our greatest strength, and that's why investors actually are joining now. So that has helped us tremendously.
No, that's absolutely incredible. And I think, you know, we covered kind of, I think, the opportunity set as it relates to investing in women and lessons learned from kind of the founder and investor seat. But let's make this a little bit practical, right, for everyone in the room. And because I think supporting women-run businesses isn't just something that institutions do. I think it also, the everyday choices, I think, expand the demand, our networks, right? We're here today, and access to capital. So, question to you, Pierre, and I don't know if you want to add after, but for Pierre, for everyone here today, kind of what are a few concrete ways everyone here can support women-run businesses, and whether if it's this week, this month, whether it's how we spend, how we think, how we introduce each other, or how we think about investing.
Well, first of all, joining my advisory council is always a great way. We now have 82 women on our advisory council all over the world, providing support in different ways. Some provide mentoring, some provide access to funding, some provide access to customers, some provide financial analysis, some provide pitch design, some provide storytelling. So those are 5 or 6 ways women can support Anya and other of my portfolio companies. Also, they can be ambassadors, they can be angel investors. By the way, just for full disclosure, when I met Anya 3 or 3.5 years ago, the whole big 2-day discussion was a $10,000 investment.
It was a lot at the time.
So we're not talking about JP Morgan and trillions and billions and zillions now, as Mark Cuban calls it. We're talking about $10,000 investment.
But something that meant a lot to Anya.
Was a game changer.
I needed it bad.
Was a game changer in, and there's lots of backstory on the logistics and what happened. But anyway, the wire came, it left, it came again.
Those are minor details.
But the point is you can get in this game and this business with angel money, 5, 10,000, 20,000. The secret is follow these green flags and meet the founders at the beginning of the journey, which is called angel investing, pre-seed investing. It's a very, one of the reasons I started backing women is as a small entrepreneur, I can get in the game with this very small ticket. Mm-hmm. You don't need to be an institution or a multimillionaire to get in. So entry level and bar quite low financially, besides the advisory and the mentoring.
Yeah. Anya, anything to add from the founder seat?
No, I love angel investors. Actually, the biggest investors still to this day are angel groups. And they're especially ones that have relationships that we can benefit from. And government for us is so important with developers, with architects, GCs. All of those connections came through our investors, and most of them are angels. So I'm very grateful for those who invest early stage.
Yes.
That's incredible. We have a few minutes. If anyone has, I'll open up the floor. Does anyone have any questions or thoughts or anything to add, I think, in the concept of investing in women? Yes?
I feel like I know Anya's story. I've been hearing about it for years because I'm an angel.
We'll give you a mic right now.
So I've been hearing Anya's story for years. I've been following it because a lot of my friends, Cynthia, Stu, all of these guys are like my close friends from Wharton, and I write, small checks, but I had stopped investing in early stage and moved on to just lower middle market. Anyway, long story short, I regret not having written you a check.
Oh. Thank you. That's the best compliment I can get.
And I'm very happy to see your success, so congrats.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
We have one question here. Or thought, comment.
You're so inspiring, and it's lovely to see how you are passionate about what you do. How did you bridge the gap from being an attorney to something that feels totally different from your skill set and scale so beautifully?
I saw someone that broke this limiting belief in me. I used to always think that you could only do the thing that you went to school for, that I could only be a lawyer because I went to law school. And then I saw this woman speaking. Her name is Martine Rothblatt. It was a Peter Diamandis event. And Peter Diamandis, he's like the godfather of moonshots. Like the concept of a moonshot is that it's like $1 billion company, you impact 1 billion people, and no one thought that you could do this. And he said very few people in the world will have a moonshot. And then he brought on stage this woman who has had 7 moonshots.
Wow.
And she has 5 more that she's building. Her first one was that she was the founder of satellite radio, Sirius XM. Mm-hmm. And that is what she went to school for. She was an engineer. And then she found out her daughter had a terminal illness. And it was so rare that absolutely nobody was doing any research looking into anything that could help her. And so she had this kind of transformational moment, and she just said, I am going to figure this out. And she watched YouTube videos, and she got every time I talk about it, I get chills, it's crazy. She got middle school biology books and high school books. She literally taught herself to be a doctor and then found a cure for this disease, you guys. That is amazing. And then she turned that into a public company. So that was her second moonshot. And then she did like the first zero carbon footprint helicopter, and now she's 3D printing organs. It is crazy, and she did not go to school for any of that. And the second you see someone doing the thing you told yourself that could never be done, you can't keep lying to yourself. I walked into that talk, one person, and I walked in another person. I said, not another day. I will not lie to myself anymore, because the only person stopping me is me. And what you are missing in your own experience, you put together in your team. I'm just the bus driver. I have this vision, obsession, and my job is to fill up the bus with everyone that has the missing pieces. The concrete, I don't know anything about concrete. My COO does. Engineers, designers, they're all on the bus, and together we're going to accomplish it. But if you wait for yourself to have all of those missing pieces and the right education, you will never, ever take the first step.
That's awesome. I think with the interest of time, I think we might have a little a break after, but we can continue the dialogue during the break. But Anya, Pierre, thank you so much. Thank you to all for listening. Thank you.
Thank you.